So we're going to start with our public comment period. I ask that, do we have the sheet over there, please? Ann, can I have the sheet, please? So while we're getting this, just want to remind everybody that you each have 2 minutes. We have a period of 20 minutes set aside for this. We ask that you respect the person that's coming after you. This is not a time to engage the board. We're not allowed to talk back, so this is your time to say whatever you'd like to in front of for the board's business. You have 2 minutes, and we'll just go through. It's important that you give the board respect. The board gives you respect, and we'll go through this nicely, and we listen to you, and we take it to heart, and we take notes, and we investigate, and everything else that we do every time. Okay. So first up.
I think it's 3 minutes.
We're going to go to this minute. That's why I said 2.
And Denise went.
Denise Wentz, followed by Donna McDonald. But go ahead and please just sit in one of the seats. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a good play. I didn't even see that up there. If you want to take that mic there. Sure. I'm sorry, thank you.
I'm Denise Wentz. I'm a school library media specialist in Williston, Vermont, and I'm here with a group of librarians from around the state who would like to speak to you. The next couple people will be school librarians, and I'm going to pass out some letters that are going to be shared with you. I'm going to pass them out to board members.
Thank you. Donna McDonald, followed by Eileen Gaddy.
Hi, I'm Donna McDonald, and I have a letter to share with you from the American Library Association. Dear Chair Porter and Board of Education members, as presidents of more than 58,000 member American Library Association and American Association of School Librarians, a division of ALA, we are deeply concerned about recent cuts of school librarian positions in the Burlington School District. As leaders of national associations, we have a unique perspective on what is happening in schools around the country, and we know that Burlington is not alone in the struggle to provide students with a quality education in times of diminished funding. We have, however, seen research that shows what works. More than 60 studies from across the nation provide clear and concise evidence that student achievement is higher in schools with certified school librarians. Certified school librarians are teachers first and foremost with extensive education and training, focused on literacy, information resources, technology, and research. They are school-wide leaders who develop, coordinate, and evaluate the delivery of school library services, teach critical information skills, support diverse learners, build a culture of independent reading, integrate technology into teaching and learning, collaborate with other teachers, provide professional development, and partner with the entire educational community to support student learning, achievement, and personal growth. These are just a few of the many roles of a certified school librarian, and we are not alone in recognizing their indispensability. Vermont's education quality standards stipulate staffing recommendations for certified school librarians, developed to ensure equitable access to library programs and services. Without the skillful direction of a certified school librarian, the very asset you have cut from Burlington students, these standards cannot be met. The long-term costs of these cuts, both to students and to your communities, are higher than any possible savings. Burlington students deserve equitable access to the resources that will prepare them to succeed in school and beyond. We urge you to reinstate these positions and fully staff Burlington school librarians with certified school librarians. Respectfully, Julie Beth Todaro, PhD, President of the American Library Association, and Audrey P. Church, PhD, President of the American Association of School Librarians.
Thank you. Eileen, followed by Heidi Eustace.
Eileen Gotti, Community College of Vermont, representing the Vermont Consortium of Academic Libraries. We would like to urge the Burlington School Board to reinstate full-time certified teacher librarians to the Burlington schools. As college and university librarians, we have intimate knowledge of the skills required for this generation to succeed in college and beyond. In our profession, we strive to integrate information literacy skills across the curriculum to help build lifelong learners. We work daily with students who struggle to recognize authoritative sources of data within a sea of information, and who lack understanding of how to analyze and make effective use of information in their schoolwork. These students are at a distinct disadvantage in college-level work over their classmates who have experienced robust library programs in their elementary, middle, and high schools. In order to be competitive in the knowledge economy, students need to be able to retrieve, evaluate, and synthesize information competently and ethically. These are skills increasingly valued by employers. School librarians provide this instruction at every level of education. Information literacy skills are also critical for citizenship. In an increasingly polarized society dominated by social media and the 24-hour news cycle, school librarians are needed to help prepare an informed citizenry who are able to distinguish between sound arguments grounded in facts and rhetorical statements that lack credibility. Robust school media programs have a measurable impact on student reading, writing, and critical thinking skills. School library media specialists are librarians uniquely trained to act as instructional leaders who collaborate with classroom teachers to introduce important skills that impact day-to-day learning and help students become college or work ready. Paraeducators and non-librarian staff do not have the same professional training. There is ample evidence that students in schools with full-time librarians score better on state assessments. More importantly, the discovery that can happen for kids in their library is transformative. We want all kids to live up to the potential embedded in their natural curiosity and sense of wonder. Please don't disadvantage Burlington's children by depriving them of an important learning and life resource. On behalf of the library directors of our 21 member institutions at the Vermont Consortium of Academic Libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Heidi Eustace, followed by Judy Kaplan.
So I'm here to share remarks from Margaret Woodruff, President of the Vermont Library Association. As President of the VLA, I'm writing to you in support of professional library staff and services in the Burlington School District and in other school districts throughout Vermont. The cuts being considered this year come at a time when the educational resources and support provided by teacher librarians have been identified as critical to student success. The American Library Association adopted a resolution for school equity in June 2016. This references the Every Student Succeeds Act. To implement the Every Student Succeeds Act, schools need librarians. According to the American Association of School Librarians, an effective school library program has a certified school librarian at the helm, provides personalized learning environments, and offers equitable access to resources to ensure a well-rounded education for every student. In April 2015, the Vermont Agency of Education reinstated the provision that the services of a certified library media specialist shall be made available to students and staff. Schools with over 300 students shall have at least one full-time library media specialist and sufficient staff to implement a program that supports literacy, information, and technology standards. The VLA is the organization committed to the development and improvement of library and information services in the state of Vermont, supports the development and continuation of effective school library programs as outlined above. Furthermore, the VLA supports all efforts by library faculty, staff, and school district officials to ensure the standards defined by ESSA are met and that teacher librarians can continue with the crucial part they play in student education at all levels. Respectfully submitted, Margaret Woodruff, Vermont Library Association President.
Thank you.
Hello again. I'm back for another round. I would encourage you, in the packet of information that's been handed out, I have included a visual with a rather clever cartoon, and it has a QR code and it has a direct link to a Google Doc that I've prepared. I'm not going to read to you my whole document because that would take too much time, and I hope that you will take the time to look through it because I explain my reasoning for reinstating the school librarian positions to full-time. And my reasoning is really based on educational standards. And I fear that we will not be meeting educational standards in the city of Burlington. Burlington's always enjoyed a reputation as a leader in educational innovation, and most students who graduate from our schools go on to successful careers and/or academic pursuits. success comes with high expectations, and high expectations mean high standards. We have to ask the question, do our schools still meet educational quality standards as described in expectations? Are our students and programs on equitable footing with other schools in Vermont? How do we know if we're succeeding? In June, Amy Miner, who is the principal at Colchester High School, wrote a wonderful editorial in the Free Press in the My Turn section. And she was talking about the value of accreditation. And I'm addressing that here. Her writing was just magnificent because she, and I will quote her, accreditation is the voluntary process undertaken by schools to ensure that they meet multiple standards for quality. More than 30 public high schools in our state, including mine, are accredited by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. And she goes on to say that the process that she goes through, that her whole staff and her community went through for accreditation, was the most demanding and most worthwhile way of looking at the success of her school educational program. And now in the fall, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, Burlington High School is going through NEASC review. They've already done the self-study, and they have a visiting group that's going to come in and look at Burlington High School with the cuts to the library standards. And in the NEASC standards, there are 7 in all. Standard 6 addresses school libraries. And when you ask the question, are we going to meet the standards? I fear that will not happen because it requires a certified professional, and it requires facility available and staff for students and staff before, during, and after school. And that does not even include the information services that are provided by the certified professional. In addition, in the new ESSA, which Heidi mentioned, in Vermont, we are going through the process now of addressing how we are going to be administering the federal funds and the ESSA requirements. And tomorrow and the next day, there's a community input meeting at Jay Peak.
Judy, I'm sorry, you got about 15 seconds. Please.
Okay. And there are librarians that'll be there. And if you look here, I explain how one of the bases of the implementation will be around the Vermont quality standards, and they will be used as a lens to judge the requirements for the federal programs. So part of that is also, as Heidi mentioned, there's language in there about school libraries, and we will not be meeting those standards.
Thank you.
I'm concerned.
Thank you. Before we go on, is there anyone else that has any other topic besides the library? Because I know there's a couple more people from the library that want to talk, but I also want to make sure that any other topics are covered also. Is there anybody else that wants to speak to that? Sina?
To the library or to something else?
To something else.
I have something else.
Would you like to speak now?
No, I'm happy to wait.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure we get ready in because we're already into it. Megan, followed by Josh Roof.
Mine's fairly quick. Just here, my name is Megan Warda. I'm an ELL teacher in the district, and I'm here just kind of speaking on behalf of some of the families and students that I work with. I know one of the district's goals is closing the achievement gap, and I see that the librarian is a really integral part of that process. It creates a really safe place for students to go, and a lot of our students need more access to literacy. So I provide literacy, and there's literacy specialists, and there's a classroom teacher, but we actually need more of it. And I think it comes from the librarians. And that's all, I guess.
Thank you very much. Josh Roof?
Hi, Josh Roof. I'm a father of 2 students at the IAA and also a teacher, middle school teacher from Milton. just urging you to reinstate the library positions. With my teacher hat on, I just know the invaluable role that library and media specialists play in the collaboration. I couldn't do my job without it. Many classroom teachers can't. It is a vast array of knowledge that classroom teachers can't be expected to cover, and half-time positions are not going to get that done as well. With my father hat on, my daughters and all the students deserve these positions to be reinstated. To echo what was said earlier, with the increased amount of information and technology and access, it's a really needed area that they need knowledge in on how to navigate. And I do my best at home. I'm sure all families try their best, but it's something that has to happen at schools as well. And again, a halftime position is not going to be able to do the collaboration and teaching that all of these students really deserve and need to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill Allen, followed by Sina Daly.
I obviously can't get up to the mic, so I will speak from back here. I am an after-school educator at C.P. Smith Elementary School. I think what best sums up the need for the library positions to be reinstated was a poster that I saw on the hallway of my school, and one student wrote, "When I grow up, I want to be," and then there was a blank. And this student wrote, "a reader." I think we all want every student in the district to be a reader, and I don't see how that can happen if these library positions are not reinstated to full-time for the 2016-2017 school year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Sina Daly.
My name is Sina Daly. I live in Ward 1. Mark Porter is my rep, but I know that all of you also represent all of the children here in Burlington, and I completely agree with all the previous speakers about reinstating full-time librarians, so I just echo that. And I also beseech the board to continue to move towards policy governance. I appreciate that you're taking on this pilot program for the year, and the training that I just was part of. Thank you, Miriam, for making us come in there. I hope that you will move towards a full policy governance model, not a part-time. Seeing that a couple of the committee meetings for tonight were canceled, maybe that's an indication we don't need some of those committees, that we need the hard work done using policy governance for all of our students, cradle to career, that come through our system, for equity, for fairness, for policies about libraries and what access we have. I can't think of a better model, if it's done correctly, than for you all to move towards that, to be accountable to each other and to be accountable to our constituents, and to hold our superintendent accountable, to make it a fair game for everybody. I think we have to move beyond a system where the loud voices, the snowplows, the personal agendas are, we get rid of those because they continue to keep us in the trenches. So I really hope that you move forward with this work, and I applaud you for taking it on. We have Winooski right up the hill that have done a very successful job of moving towards that way for all of their students, and we see the successes that they're having. So thank you.
Thank you. We have just a couple more minutes. If there's anybody that wasn't on the list that does want to speak, please feel free to take the mic. Seeing none, I'll close the public comment period and move to board reflections at this time. Are there any board members that would like to reflect on what was said tonight? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and Commissioner Harrington.
I just want to thank all the librarians who are here tonight and who have written to us and come before I find all this testimony very moving. In my day job at UVM, I work very closely with librarians making arguments similar to the ones people have mounted here tonight about the relationships between literacy, which is my field, and information literacy. And while I have enormous respect for the budget process last year, in which the process for many months worked with the superintendent, working with the senior leadership to figure out the ways to implement the financial constraints that we found ourselves with. I do have a lot of questions about the ways in which information literacy in the curriculum will be working this year, and actually the curriculum committee has asked Senior Director Phillips to help organize a report to the curriculum committee in October on the issue of library services in the schools this year. But I think it is something that is something very much worth thinking about this year.
Commissioner Judson.
I too would like to appreciate everyone who has come this time and the last time. And I too would like to know how the needs are going to be met. And I haven't heard a plan for that yet, and I look forward to hearing that.
Anyone else? I'll grab a minute. So, we don't, whenever we have meetings, it's all business, right? And if you sat there and you listened to any of our meetings or you watched any of the recordings, you would feel like it was, because I watched them, you'd feel like it was robotic, and now they're listening, and their mind's made up. Look at the commissioners are like, that's not really. You would feel that there's a stoicism. That's Mrs. French, my librarian, taught me that word a long time ago, right? At St. Teresa's School in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And that's just not true. So this is some of the toughest stuff that we deal with, is within the confines of a budget. In this case, we had a budget that was 63% approved by the voters. Doesn't mean we have to like it all, but it does mean that they told us what has to happen. Then we work within that, and this is a world of priority calls. I'm sorry. You would like to see that it was a world of priority calls, and it's not always that way, because from school to school to school, it's very different. And it can be very tough to try to make so many different school organizations, the parents, the PTOs, happy, because they think all very differently. Their goals are very different. The goals of the IAA is very different from Champlain. The way they address things is very different, and it can be very tough to do this. We also suffer from those that are in the most need don't show up here, and we've suffered from it for years, that we don't always hear from that part of the community that needs the most help. So we have to go out and try to find that information, and it's not an easy task. It's very heartfelt to see where we fail. We know when we fail. We admit when we fail. We don't want to know how many times we failed over the last couple of years, but a lot of it was trial and error. But we know that we failed in some places, right? But in this case, when you get down to something like this, which is librarians, which does help those most in need, it's a very, very tough thing, and it's very touching to try to find out how we can fix this. So we haven't given up. We are listening to you, and we all really think that we still have some time here to try to do everything we can to try to make this better. So, Commissioner Curry?
So this is always a tough dynamic, because we're not supposed to react to public forum, but everybody wants to react to public forum. So since the chair went ahead and broke the protocol, I
Open that door.
I would just also express my appreciation for everybody coming back and coming back. I've been on the board for 3 or 4 years now. I kind of lost track. And somebody said last month something that made a lot of sense to me, which is that in Burlington we've had really what's an advocacy budget process where every year there's a cut because we've lost $4.5 million over the last 3 years. $4.5 million that was found by 1 year cutting languages that were introduced in the elementary school, then the next year cutting languages in middle school, cutting healthy living in the middle schools, cutting this year, we ended up with 1 AP class that was cut, cutting other service social workers. So we are in that challenging position of steering a very large boat without enough water to sit on. And as everyone knows, we needed an interim superintendent to prevent the state from running our district at a time when we had a deficit and needed to recover from that. And then we engaged the community with 18 people in the process of hiring a new superintendent. With unanimity, people invited Yao to come to the district. And we did that because of our trust in his expertise in managing during a very difficult time. So I would just ask people to recognize that a large community group and the board has faith in someone who has an extensive amount of experience in managing 3 times as many schools in a district as ours and having to make decisions. And my personal feeling is that I would like to be a board member that's engaged with you on conversations that are not related to advocacy budget every year, but that are related to where we're going as a district. And that I feel comfortable doing that now because we have a superintendent who has the expertise to make sure that the biggest school district in Vermont is not going to lose its accreditation. I just don't believe that's going to happen. And I also believe that he has worked with the administration to come up with a plan to meet the standards and supply and deliver the services that you all feel really strongly, that we all feel really strongly our kids need. And I've refrained from asking him what that plan is because it's not my job to know what the plan is for the library or for healthy living or for language or for math or for AP classes. That's not my job as a board member because I don't have the expertise to evaluate what I hear. So I would ask people to be patient, as the board has, with hearing directly from the building administrators and from Yao what the plan is. A lot of this was related to waiting for retirements, restaffing, reconfigurations, changes in the district that the board wanted to see because up until recently we've operated as almost 9 separate school districts. And we need to operate as one school district with 9 schools that receive a kind of a systematic thinking that engages everybody who works here. And that takes a lot of time. It's just a huge endeavor. We've come off of, a collapse and we're rebuilding. And I understand it's difficult facing these kinds of what feel like monumental changes, but with the federal government pulling the rug out from under us, we've had to make some incredibly difficult choices. I mean, kids didn't have transportation for a year. That was just like outrageous, but that's the choice we had to make at a time when, because the board didn't have the expertise to cut other places, we stayed away from the curriculum and we cut something very fundamental. So the point is, as a board, we lack the expertise to evaluate specific cuts, that we understand why people are passionate about and we understand the professionalism and the framework that you bring to your jobs. And we've hired a superintendent to steer that process because we have the trust and faith that he will do that successfully. And if he doesn't, we will know that and we will address that and do our job that way.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Kleeman.
I just want to thank you all for coming. I find, to me, libraries are home. I would go curl up in the library and stay there if I could. But I want to also comment on what Liz said. Have faith. Everything is getting better. We've come a long way just since I've been on the board, and it has been painful, these various cuts that we've made. And miserable. But and you better not, where did he go? Where did he go? He's over there. Yeah.
Sorry.
I have 100% faith in you. Don't screw that up. I have bosses that I don't have faith in right now. It's not fun. So have faith and know that we are working and that we care and really appreciate your comments. Thank you for coming here tonight.
Anybody else from the board? Okay, seeing none, I'll close this period. Move on to the board report. I'm going to zip through, so I know we spent some time on that, so I'm going to be going through this one a little fast. Negotiations update. On June 30th was the fact-finding session. At that time, we believed that the fact-finder's report would be available on July 30th. We were notified on July 30th, if not the day before, that it would be delayed until August 15th. Okay? So that fact-finding report, from the day it's released, hopefully it's August 15th, there'll be a 10-day period where that's kept private between both the parties, and we have an opportunity to talk at that time. And then after that period, it'll be released to the public. Okay? If anybody wants to leave, if this gets into the boring stuff, please feel free. You're fine. So, I formed a superintendent evaluation and goal setting committee. This is certainly breaking some ground that we've never been down the path before. Commissioner Chena, Commissioner Harrington, and Commissioner Judson are on that committee. They are responsible for the establishment for at least this coming year. They're responsible for establishment of the goals as well as the process that's used, that is followed in order to lead right through the periodic reviews of the superintendent, and so that we can know where we sit. And he gets that opportunity to get feedback more than just the once a year. So the three of them are going to be handling that this year, which is great. I want to remind the board members that September 14th, we have a joint meeting with the school board and city council. I think we do this twice a year, maybe, Miriam, where we sit down with the city council. They talk about things that are important to them. We talk about things that are important to us, and we try to coordinate what we have to. And lastly, the student report. Bella, I'm going to put you on the hot seat there.
So the first thing, preseason for all sports except for football starts next Thursday, August 18th, and then football starts on Monday, August 15th. And then the second thing, schedules for all students were released by like a glitch in the Power School system in the beginning of this week, or like end of last week. And so there were a lot of issues that students found, and that's how the school found out that they were released, because parents were calling upset. The main issues I saw personally, I don't have any English classes, and like upperclassmen are dealing with the APs, of course, which is going to be difficult, but hopefully this will all be resolved during ad drop or before school. So they're not up on Power School anymore. They'll be released when they're supposed to be in the last week. But that's all.
That's all? All right.
Released meaning made available.
Yeah,
to the
students to
Okay.
see.
Okay, this closes the board report. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Nate, can you,
Thanks for what you said. That was perfect.
Okay, let me start by, I wish the librarians were mistakes. I wanted to actually thank them
Sorry about that.
their input throughout the process. And librarians are supposed to be the quiet ones, and they've been really vocal, and I was really impressed with a lot of the literature that they shared around library and technicians as well too. I don't think we discount any of that, and I think as an educator, I would not stand in front of people and say that we don't think we value libraries or librarians in terms of student achievement and literacy development. But we're in a situation where we do have to do some things differently, and we're in a tough situation. I want to thank the board, because you've had to make some tough decisions. Regardless of which way we would have gone, I think people would have stood up and said they value that piece or that piece. Judging from the experience I've had in Burlington thus far, I don't think there isn't anything that we could sort of reduce in our system that people would say, oh, that's not important, right? So that tells me something about the community, that they value a piece of education. I'll tell you, one of the things I want to reflect on as I talk about this is sort of the last update to the budget implementation. The budget has already been implemented. We've actually started the cycle. Been a month and a half already into the budget. But I felt it was important to wrap it up with some questions that have been lingering around throughout the last couple of months that I could try to share and try to clarify. I know my experience years ago, my prior experience when I was in the Toronto district, I wasn't the superintendent, but I was a central administrator, and we had a $2.1 billion budget. And it was never enough. Even at $2.1 billion, it was never enough. And you had to find ways to make it work. And there were tough decisions to be made. Even with that, and people would say, you've got $2.1 billion and you can't find, but there are always challenges. And so, you know, that's been the experience. That's in most districts. You know, you go through that process until you find a way to allocate the resources appropriately, right? And get funding from other sources that can supplement the growth and enhancement of your district as we move forward. I think a couple of board members talked about sort of the vacuum pulling out of Burlington in terms of funds in the last few years through legislative means, our pilot funds, and other areas that have taken out dollars away. People don't see those things until it hits the road, right? And we've got to that point. I'm really proud of this budget. I've gotten feedback, range of feedback, some people who are, you know, saying, keep going, this is what you're doing, people saying, what are you doing to our students? But I'm really proud of the work our staff have done in order to move this forward, because I truly do believe that this gives us the foundation to change our budget process and the way we allocate our resources so we can deliver budgets that are going to meet the needs. And when I go through, I'll make some comments around how some of those changes are going to happen. But we've done, this was a really different process for me in terms of Burlington, the way we allocate our budget. And it's interesting because you vote on a budget and then you develop your school schedules and what you need, and then you find out, oh my gosh. So it's kind of a little bit backwards in terms of, but it had seemed to work for years. But I think the reason why it had worked, and I look back at some of the data, is because the community has always supported the education system and have increased the funds, so we make that gap. So we cover it up 1 year, we cover it up 1 year, but we need to really step back and really capture those dollars so we can reallocate them to places that are going to give us the greatest gains in terms of that achievement gap. So I'm going to share just a few questions. I know there are more questions out there, but these are some of the questions that I've heard from board members, community members, and have come up, and I know people want to hear some reflections on that. You can also visit the board site under budget, because we've documented a lot of literature in terms of information up there, and I've recently gotten some questions that we've kind of responded to like months ago, and I kind of try to direct people back and to look back at that as well. Okay, thanks. So it's in the form of questions. So the first question I want to talk about, I want to talk a little bit about BHS, right? Because there's lots of changes in BHS, and I want to ensure people that we're heading in the right direction, right, in terms of where we go. So this question is, when will BHS student schedules be complete? So that was quite timing. So the timing that we had with the staff, you know, we had a transition. We have a brand new administrative team this summer, and they've come in the middle of the change. And we've also implemented the new Power School last year, I guess it was. And the way it was implemented wouldn't be to the standard that I would want it to be in terms of staff training in order to be able to deliver this. So that's been a challenge in terms of staff learning through that. So the schedules are complete. What's happening right now is the rollover. Saddened to hear that it was released before then, because the date that we had set was the last week of August, because they knew they still had technology pieces to roll over before it comes out. But it will be ready, just as in past years, the week before school, and students will have an opportunity to access those schedules. And then if there are conflicts, of course, the counselors will be at work and ready to make those adjustments in terms of going forward. But right now, on the other platform, we've got it all set, ready to go and ready to move forward. Okay. Will students get the courses they need to graduate? So that was a big question. People want to know, you know, if their child's going to be missing something that will negate them from moving on to college or career pathways and moving on out of high school. Yes, that is a priority in terms of staffing and schedule that our admin team have been looking at to ensure that we've got all the core subjects that are needed for students to graduate throughout their 4 years. at BHS. So we'll continue to move that, and that's something we'll continue to monitor. That's the first stage of doing this, the staffing and the scheduling of that piece, right? Okay, so I wanted to share a little bit of comparison between last year and this coming year. Seen lots of misinformation out there, and I think it's just because people hear things, and then it's like a broken telephone, and it gets kind of exaggerated, and people believe, these stories. So I wanted to share some information with you in terms of what it looks like in terms of last year to this year. So our enrollment out of our Power School, the data that we pulled out, we had last year 1,019 students, right, that started at BHS, and then for next year, right now, we're working with 986 students. The trend at BHS the last few years, if you look at data, whether if it's our data, if you don't even buy the data we have, you look at AOE data, you can see the trend throughout the course of the year that enrollment goes down, right? We start at a certain number and it goes down. I'm trying to figure out what the reasons are. Probably people move out and whatever it is, but it seems to trend down. So we will have less students starting in September than we did last year, September. So our enrollment has gone down, so 30 plus students there. Courses offered, so that equates, we did make reductions in staff because we need to do that for the budget in order to capture the dollars we need to meet the line. So the courses that were offered, we had 153 courses offered last year, and next year we'll have 149 courses, right? Considering the slight drop enrollment, that's not a significant number, right, in terms of that. And all the core subjects are there, as we said, for students to graduate. Yes, of course, we've had to reduce some of the elective courses because that's what we had to do. But I really wanted to share that because I've heard all kinds of numbers out there. People's like, oh, half of the courses are gone, or this, and that is just absolutely not true, right? That is absolutely not true whatsoever. AP courses, a lot of parents advocating around AP courses in terms of access for their students, and many of those courses have low numbers of students. In an ideal situation, we'd love to offer courses for 3 kids if they wanted to take some special course. But when we're in a situation where we have to make some choices, we have to make decisions, right? And we look after the kids in terms of what they need to graduate, and then look at the needs based on electives and be able to offer. So this is the difference we have from last year. We had 13 courses with 18 sections, and this coming year we'll have 11 courses with 16 sections, right? So the sections, for those who are not as familiar with the schooling process, are the actual classes, right, offered. So it could be you could have a course that could have 8 sections. You could have an art class, 1 course, but offers 8 sections, and it might be reduced to only 6 sections because of enrollment or whatever. Okay, this is a good one too. Do 9th graders have free blocks? So I heard from a number of students actually earlier in the year about their lots of free time, during the day in terms of unsupervised walking around. I didn't hear that from any of the teachers that I spoke to, but that may be true. Whether if it was true or not, we went out with a strategy of saying that we want to ensure that our babies, our 9th graders, have full schedules, and we have a program for them. They have an adult in front of them delivering program throughout the whole year. Okay, so that's been a priority in our scheduling. So we will ensure that we support those kids. We want them to have a good start to high school, right? And to know that they're supervised. And it's you know what? One of the things, out of conflict and change creates opportunity. And the conversations that I've had with some of our administrators are in dealing with some of the challenges. Like, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? And thinking outside the box and coming up with concepts that are better than what we're doing. Some of them we can't implement for next year because it's just the time frame. But the conversations are amazing in terms of how do we really support our students and what can we do and how can we use the most of our resources in order to share to do that, right? Okay. How can we improve the scheduling process in the future? I'm not happy with the scheduling process. I know our new admin team is not happy. Our new principal, Tracy, She was a principal in New York, and they had a different scheduling process, and had some great ideas. And we're contemplating even changing the blocking schedule, because it's going to give us more opportunities to offer more courses, but at the same time utilizing the resources we have. We couldn't do it in this short time frame, so we had to work with the past process. As I said, we've changed staffing halfway through, and I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to identify the areas that we can improve for next year. And I really see sort of a scaffolding process where we're going to improve next year, and then fine tune that and be able to get to where we really want to be in the next year, right? So we've learned some things. So some of the things, schedules will be developed based on student needs. We haven't done that, right? We've kind of speculated these electives and these courses, but why not send the survey to the students in the fall? We do it in May and expect to have it done in June. Why not do it in the fall and say, okay, you're gonna have these core classes. What are the electives you'd like to take for next year? That gives us data to support our budget process. So then we can put that into the budget and say, you know what? There are 25 kids that want to take AP Latin. So why not put that in the budget? So we'll put that in the budget. The staffing is there. So by the time that it gets to the board in January, February, March, I'm not even having a conversation about that. I'm saying, look, we've talked with the students. We've already developed a mock schedule. These are our staffing needs. We're going to put the dollars in for the needs, and then whatever's left over, we're going to take care of everything else. So there's not this fight over this subject or that subject, but it's really based on the student needs. So if you have a student needs-driven schedule, then we're responding to our students. I have no problem doing that. I think we do that first, and then whatever's left, we take care of everything else. Okay. Graduation. Okay, I said that. Power School. So let me talk a little bit about Power School. So the Power School is a great tool. It's really powerful, and there's a number of things we can do with it. Our staff don't know how to work with it. That's the reality. That's why there's been some glitches and some mess ups. And I'm not going to blame it all on the staff, because I just don't think the implementation for it was done well, to be honest. They didn't get the proper training and the supports. Normally when you have a software, you have access to the software developers, and they come in, they work with the key people, and you have a trainer model, even people who are centrally assigned to go and troubleshoot. And we haven't really done that as succinctly as I would have liked. So we've learned a lot in terms of, you make mistakes, then you get to learn, right? In terms of how to do this better. So I know that Tracy and her staff have a great attention to detail around this, and they're looking at developing their skills, right? Even though they're not the ones that are going to do it, they want to get high functioning around this so they can support the staff moving forward. So I'm feeling pretty good about that Power School. So you might hear some negative things about Power Schools, and I'd say, yeah, it's not the tool, it's the humans, right, that haven't really used it properly. Okay. Libraries, the librarians are gone, but I wanted to not all of them, no, not all of them. Some of them are still here. They're solid librarians. I'm meeting with some of the librarians on Monday. It's a couple that I'm going to meet with, so looking forward to hearing about that. So we've been working really hard on what we do in this situation in terms of how do we still offer the best product we can with the services that we have. One of the questions around would they be open? So we've got a plan. We have a plan now that we'll be ensured to have the library open all school hours, right? Initially, people were talking about they're going to be closed half the day, every other day, all this kind of stuff. So we have a plan that we'll be able to have the libraries open all day. Yes, because of reduction in staffing, we're looking at how we do things differently in terms of delivering all the other tools and skills and knowledge that librarians would have typically done and partnered with teachers and things. We want to still do that. We were just talking about how do we do that now, and we've got a plan in order to do that. But I know one of the main concerns where people were worried about not even having access to the library, because at one point in the spring there was rumors going around that they were going to be closed and locked. And I couldn't live with myself if the superintendent that closed libraries. That I don't think that would go well. So we'll make sure that the libraries are open. The two schools, the elementary schools that are impacted, IA and SA, and I put their enrollment numbers up there for you just to look at their size of school, and they're going to be sharing. They're not losing server. They're going to be sharing a librarian, and they're working on strategies on how they continue to use that space and have access for students and for teachers to come in and use it with their students. The best library services when you've got the partnerships with the teachers and other staff, and they're working on developing the skill sets for the students. So we want to take this opportunity to examine what we're doing and see, okay, are there ways we can do it? And hopefully we'll learn a little bit better. That way, when we do add a resource, because I frankly, I'll just tell you, I don't believe in just adding resource just because people say we need to have the resource. We need to examine it and look at what the benefits are doing it, and then we can see there's a gap. Then we have a rationale to say, let's add a resource in terms of doing it. I've worked really hard with our administrators about the libraries, right, from day one, in terms of, we want to ensure that we offer a program that's that they can be comfortable with, they can stand in front of their parents and say, yeah, don't worry, your kids are going to get the kind of services that they have. So we're not going to offer something that's going to be less than par at this point. Right? I think this might be a little out of district principal position. So we do have a, I'm not sure we're calling it district principal, a principal pitches for support. So let me give you a little bit of rationale where that comes from. So since I've arrived here, we've done a lot of consultations and a lot of conversations with community, staff, and administrators. And one of the things administrators will tell you, they're overworked, right? And they can't get to the types of things they would like to do in terms of supporting their teachers and their students and their communities because they're bogged down with administrative things. And part of it has to do with the way we've orchestrated and aligned things. So out of this, we wanted to make sure we provided school support. And when we add a resource like this, I'm looking at, okay, how does it benefit our schools? Because I want to see that impact, right? People will think, oh, it's going to be a central thing to benefit. No, this is to benefit the schools. Believe it or not, central staff, we work for the schools. We get a lot of calls from schools wanting supports around a lot of different things. And if we can't be available to them, then we're not any good to them as well. So some of the things, you can see some of the things that this individual will be doing. Definitely supporting our new administrators. So there's legislation that we must have a mentor for every administrator. And we have, I don't know, maybe about five or six new administrators in our district. We have to pay for that. Having this person, we don't have to, because they can automatically be, they know the system, right? They can be a great mentor in terms of learning the system, and they have connections outside the district as well too in terms of supporting. So there's actually some financial benefits to this as well too. That wasn't my real focus, but it's a byproduct in terms of having that, because sometimes even the person who's another district, a phone call away, is not always readily available, where we're going to have somebody who's going to hold the hand of our new administrators and have that systemic alignment, right? Middle school review. On the budget presentation, we talked about, identified that our middle schools needed supports, right? And we had put a placeholder in there to add some sort of resource to help them, right? So one of the roles would be around doing review of their middle schools and the alignment of the middle schools, and also learning best practices that we can share with our other schools. That's one of our focuses is systemic alignment, right? I think Mark talked, or maybe it was Liz talked earlier, that sometimes we had like 9 different districts, right, in the way we're operating. And you know what, and even talking with the principals, when I've had our systems leaders conversations, they've talked that way, and they say, yeah, I do my thing and they do their thing, I don't know, and we need to come together and have a more systemic approach. Special projects, there will be some mandates that come down always, state and federal, right, and usually that gets tossed on to the schools, get it done. Or somebody centrally who has another portfolio. Now we can have somebody that can help manage that and facilitate that and make sure that it doesn't pull us away from our priorities. because sometimes they don't always match with our priorities. And also strategic planning, we're currently working on a strategic plan. There's going to be a lot of work. It's pretty complex in terms of meshing that with what we're doing already and being able to move along smoothly. So we need to have that connection to everything we do and to work on that change process. The hardest thing is the change process, right? So we need to have people who are looking at the change process as we move forward. At the same time, innovation, looking for opportunities of innovation. And we have that in Burlington. I've seen it in classrooms, on teams, but we haven't capitalized on it, right? They should be our leaders. We should be able to capture them, have somebody say, hey, look, profile this, let's develop that, and let's run that systemically, okay? All right. Okay, so this question has to do with the risk process. The question was how many people actually lost their jobs as a result of the reduction in force. So the reduction in force process is a continuous process, right? So when we started it months ago, you know, it changes, like people get bumped and back and phone calls back and forth. And it's really a process that's dictated by seniority and certification, and that's outlined in the teacher contract. So there's nothing that I can change about it. And I put the word saved up there because I've had calls and emails from parents, sometimes students say, can you not save my favorite teacher, whatever, but that sometimes they're junior teachers, right? And so they have to go on. I have no authority over that in terms of having any say in terms of who, you know, I can designate to save. So I wanted to kind of put that up there for people. It impacted 24 people. So out of 24 people, we were able to recall 21. That's pretty amazing, right? And the remaining 3, I understand, are people who have either don't have qualifications for something that's available for us, or they don't want it, or they've just declined in doing that. If you walked in through the front there, there's a posting thing there. There's all kinds of jobs there. We have jobs, right? And the system this side goes through that turnover every year. So I was really quite surprised, having worked in large systems where people were kind of like, oh my gosh, there's 24 people in Burlington. Well, geez, we got over 600 employees. That's, you know, I guarantee at least half of them are gonna come back in some format. They're not gonna lose their job. They may not have the same position they've had, but hopefully this is a process we don't have to go through, right? So we can retain some of our new hires as we start to build their capacity and keep them through. But I wanted to share that in terms of pretty much everyone who wanted to be back has had the opportunity to stay in Burlington, and some haven't. This was a weird one. I don't know. I think this must have started from some kind of rumor, probably related to overstaffing centrally, because it started popping up. And I go, well, I'm not even gonna. I really wouldn't want to acknowledge this, but you know, I thought, okay, well, let's just put it out there, because if it's going around, people might be saying other things about it. So Rich Amato, and I hate to even put his personal name up there, but that's the name that's been going around. He retired this year. He retired in June, and so we've had the opportunity to have him contract in terms of working with us as a safety coordinator. We have a safety team, and we have some safety compliance work that's been on the back burner for at least 2 years, as far as I'm concerned. And I think the BA had put a grievance a while back around safety, and we haven't really responded or done any proactive work around that. So that's work that needs to happen. And the other role would be substitute principal, which is we're actually going to get savings from this, because we do that every year. Principals get sick, emergencies, so we have somebody we know, knows our system, is going to go in, and we can plan ahead of time. I know of an administrator that needs to be away for a family thing in a couple of months. We can book Rich in and say, you're going to be at that school, and you're going to take care of that, and that's going to be helpful for us, so we're not looking for somebody at the last minute. And that's really helpful. And we would pay, the cost is the same as we pay a substitute on a regular basis as well too. So there's nothing there that's increasing our costs in any way. It's just based on what we currently already do. He's just the person that's actually doing it. This one really kind of shocked me, because there are other little contracts that the district has done for years, people who were just, you know, and they didn't identify any of those people, but they identified Rich. So I don't know if somebody was particularly had, you know, issues around Rich or what. So, okay, I'm gonna let Nate take this one.
So this slide probably looks familiar to people who've seen some of these presentations before, but we just thought we'd put it back up again because it seems like it's a question that constantly comes up. Folks might remember that the kind of construct of the budget that we assembled envisioned $400,000 worth of reductions to kind of central administration and departments. And as you can see, we in the itemized way, we were actually able to identify a significant amount of reductions over and above the targeted amount. So there's 550,000 total reductions that we were able to identify to more than meet our target, and that was you know, a significant victory for us because it did give us a little flexibility to deal with some of the issues that inevitably come up after we've already set our budget. Do you want me to do this one too?
Yeah, go ahead.
So then there was so this question it came up specifically at I think maybe last month's board meeting, and I felt it needed kind of a direct response. So during the public comment session, we had a member of the public come up and say something like, well, I just went online and I see that there's 3 positions being hired in human resources, and so by goodness, we're adding all sorts of central office positions. And so I just felt that was, it was an unfortunate and wildly inaccurate characterization that I thought needed to be rebutted. As Yao mentioned before, in a district of, you know, actually close to 1,000 employees when you factor in a lot of the people that are non-teaching staff as well. There's all sorts of turnover, and we're constantly hiring, and so that was just an example where we had 2 vacancies and 1 impending vacancy in human resources, and so we were hiring for them. So I thought it was important just to note that actually is pretty much a standard procedure, and at any given point in time, there's going to be hiring going on, both in the kind of teaching and para ranks as well as in the ranks that are administratively, and so. I thought that deserved a
Nate, can you go back one slide again? Because I think there's, I wanted to kind of say this piece publicly because I know when we first showed this slide, school board and the board, I had questions from the board, like, well, what budget do we have? What budget? In the budgeting, it's under your category around legal fees. So we anticipate in terms of the way we were trying to organize ourselves to be able to, we're finding the 20,000 in terms of doing that. But one of the challenges that we have, actually, maybe coming back to the board, is that we have a obligatory requirement to respond to records requests. We get a lot of media requests, which are fine because they're usually really focused and looking for a specific thing. We've had, I say we probably get about 2 non-media records requests a week. That takes a lot of time, energy, and also legal.
Non-what?
Non-media. So it could be like from you, it could not from you, but like, you know, people in the community in terms of, and we want to respond to them. But the volume that we're getting means that we have to really find ways to do it differently, or we have to add some dollars because it's a cost. Because a lot of the material we have to vet through legal, so that's a cost. So now, okay, look at this doc and give it to legal, make sure that we're in compliance before. So that's a challenge for us right now because we're getting these, and you know, and I don't begrudge the community for asking because that's their right. But I would say probably 70–80% of the records requests are generated by 1 or 2 people, right? The FOIA, yeah. And in some of them could be questions that they could just ask us, and I would respond to in some cases. But it does take up a lot of energy and time. And there's the dichotomy that we have, right? Because people say centrally, you need to reduce your staff, right? And be a little more lean. And then they ask things of us and they say, you're not responding to us. You're not giving us, and we're like, we're dealing with a whole bunch of other things. And you know, you're gonna have to wait until we get to that, and we have to, in these type of things, we have to respond immediately. So we're currently looking at strategies. Some of that might be some technological strategies in terms of getting some software that's going to help us, at least just the receipt of it and being able to communicate. Hopefully we can eliminate some of the legal costs around it. But I wanted to share that because I know the board members had asked the last time we just showed this slide, and so just to remind you, so just in case somebody asks you, we saw a slide with $20,000, what's your budget? Because you don't really have a budget, right? But under the budgeting, it's under the legal for the board, okay? So, questions? Nope, can't ask questions, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Is there an estimated cost of each request for information?
Yeah, you know what, we're doing that analysis now because it's happened so frequently, but that means I gotta take staff time out to do that work as well too, right?
Yeah.
So, because we're trying to find out, we don't usually ask for reimbursement.
Right.
But there, I
It
don't
would
know.
just be good to know.
Yeah, but there are some standards out there if we look like federally and things like this. So we're currently looking at what are we gonna do about this, and I'm hoping we'll have something in place for September that we can be a little bit more disciplined around how we respond to these and how we flip back and charge when it's appropriate to charge, right?
And no one on the board is getting stipends, right? I'm not.
No
No
stipends.
one else is?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we did get that question too. I was surprised. You guys are volunteers,
Oh my God.
right? Everyone's volunteers, so.
I might be able to pay the electric bill.
Checks in. Oh, now all the questions are coming. Okay, Susan Marie.
I'm just wondering about the elimination of the senior director of student support services. So who's responsible for overseeing special ed in the district now?
Right, so we.
Or ultimately, but where's
Right.
it delegated?
We have a director of student services, Laura Nugent, who we just hired. So she's consuming, so, you know, she's carrying a bigger load than when Dylan was here. But she seems to be very capable, and we're doing that analysis. She's doing a gap analysis of the work. You know, down the road, maybe a year from now, we might look at it and she might say, wow, this is really overwhelming, and we might have to support her, right? But we want to go lean first, and then add the resources where we need it, right? I don't want to take anything for granted just because we've had it that we have to, but I'd rather pull back and then say, okay, what's the rationale for adding that resource? And then I'll stand up and do that.
This is actually a question for you, Nate. I've looked at the budgets now for several years, and I've always wondered why there is a line called school board budget when we don't really have any budget. And I wondered if we might make a decision, or I might suggest that we change the name, the label on that, because my understanding is it's quite a bit of money because all the legal costs of the district, that have to do with employees are under the line that says school board budget. And that only a couple of thousands of dollars actually goes to us, and that goes to join the Vermont School Board Association and occasionally to give us a chance to attend conferences. So I just wondered if the misnomer might be able to.
Yeah, I think we can actually. I asked the same question.
Just for clarity, it's under Board of Education.
Right.
Not school board.
Right,
And there's also
That's
another $110,000 for insurance for the school district.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
As long as you don't put it under superintendent.
I think the answer is yes. I think the short answer is yes. I asked the same question because I thought it was odd as well. Just it didn't make intuitive sense to me. And the answer I got at the time was like, oh well, if you read very literally the policy, one of the policies says like the board shall pay legal costs. It's in law. And I think that really that just means, in the way it's written, I think it's meant to imply the school district, but I think they took it so literally that they put it in this spot. And I think that it does make for a kind of misleading way to look at it. You're right, it's been done that way since who knows how long, but I certainly don't have any qualms about changing
Perhaps
it in
we
the
could
future.
just change that. Change it on the website
Just
tomorrow,
we'll call
because
it
I've been getting.
Marian's budget, how about that?
Yeah, no, it's not my budget, but I just think that would be helpful for the public to actually understand.
That
what
would
we're
probably
doing.
take away some of the questions anyways, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of,
And it's the reality, so.
okay, so go ahead.
Okay.
All right,
To
you
this
wanna do
one?
that? After you, yeah.
So one of the questions are about some of the things that were either brought back or added that we talked about, because that was part of the budget process as well, is like where we would be looking to make additions. And so here are just some of the things that people know are out there. There was identified a need based on enrollment of some additional capacity at Edmonds Middle School, and so there was a 0.5 FTE health teaching position that was added back there. One of the cuts, Just gonna go back here. You can see on the very bottom there, pre-K, we had targeted a $30,000 reduction. But in looking at the trend that we're seeing in pre-K enrollment under the universal pre-K law, we're just not gonna be able to do that. The law obliges us to pay for for students who are enrolled in pre-K, even if they're in one of the private partner programs. So that's an area where we had to go back and say, you know what, we had planned to find savings there, and we can't do it. So that is something that was added back. There's also some math support, again, at the middle school level. That was an identified need during the budget process that we spoke of. Addition of a kindergarten class at Flynn, again, to meet the enrollment needs. Flynn wasn't the original location where we thought that we would place that class, but after doing the analysis, it was determined that made the most sense for the needs and the enrollment trends we're seeing. There's also the 0.5 equity instructional leader that was added, and the addition of social worker services, which again was something that was discussed as something that needed to come back during the budget process.
Right. So there you go. So and I said at the beginning that I was really proud of this. One of the reasons why I'm proud of it was that, one, we had to make some really tough decisions, and we did, and that's not always easy, right? But we were able to, at the same time, reallocate the dollars and not only make reductions, but also support these needs and add. And I think that's the kind of approach I would like to have, because we're going to continue to do this. Like Nate and I are every day we're talking about, oh, we can save money here, we can do this, because we know if we can get those dollars, then we can reinvest it into something else that every one of our departments in our schools are saying, well, we need this, we need that. There's more needs out there in terms of that. So we'll continue to do that process. I anticipate that we're going to start shifting now to start developing next year's budget. We've already started having conversations about developing formulas, trying to push our administrators to engage in that. They haven't had the experience of doing that, so it takes a little bit of work, but I think that will help us in terms of allocating our dollars. Already, Nate's already had conversations. We've already done the school operations budget. So we've already gone a process and found a formula for that. So, and they're in with that. So that piece is gone. So now we got to look at the staffing pieces. So as we get those pieces in, that's going to help us be able to deliver a budget a little easier in terms of knowing exactly based on student needs and some of our capacity needs in terms of doing that. So there it is. I know that doesn't answer all the questions that are out there, but those were some questions that came up most recently that I wanted to make sure I fed back to the board. Okay.
So before people just ask questions, we are running about 20 minutes late right now. He still has 2 other topics to talk about on this, so if you could just make sure that it's questions that are significant, and we'll just move on, okay?
I just was saving all my questions rather than interrupting his presentation. But I only asked 2 of them. They have to do with the library situation. So you had said that libraries will be open during school hours. Will they be open the same hours that they've been open?
I actually don't know what that means.
Like I don't know if school hours means when classes end, or if they're one of the librarians during their presentation said that they were open after school sometimes. And so, I guess that's a question.
Yeah, that's a question. I'll have to look into that. Okay. But for sure, during the school day, for sure, it's going to be open.
But that's what I mean. What is the school day? Does it include after school or not?
Instructional time, I would say, when the bell rings. Okay. Whether if there's after school stuff, I have to look into that, see if they've planned for that. I know there are. Sorry. That's our word.
And then the second question about libraries was, you had said that we would be in compliance. You said BHS would stay in compliance, but does that also include the accreditation question that was asked earlier? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Liz?
I just want to express my appreciation for your focus on the middle schools. One of the reasons I got involved in the board is because there was such a huge disparity in the middle schools. I had a kid in each, and it was very clear there was a what I would characterize as, the greatest inequity in the district, and it's great to see that being addressed in a systematic way, and I really like the approach you've taken. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a little bit biased. I was a middle school principal at one point, but they are the middle child, right? Exactly. And the one a year. So, Miriam.
I just wanted to request that we put this on the budget, this on the budget page of the website, and
Okay.
for the board too, because we could
Okay.
direct them, and maybe with a very clear label that it's sort of like a Q&A. I
Okay.
think that's very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do that.
I just had one question on the first slide about schedules. So they're like finished, they just aren't being made
Yeah,
available.
there's a two-stage, right? So they've done the schedule, but then they have to transfer it into the technology so they can send it out, right? So, yeah. Rollover, they say the rollover, right? Roll it
So
over.
the ones that some students saw when they were
Yeah, they shouldn't have gotten that yet. 'Cause
Right.
I sent a
Yeah.
communication out like 2 weeks ago that it wouldn't come until the end of
Yeah.
August, so.
Yeah. But if the
something happened.
ones like if you saw your schedule then, that's the finished one.
No. I wouldn't say that, no, because they shouldn't have been finished, shouldn't have been rolled
Well,
over
right,
yet.
right, yeah,
So
that's-
wait till the last week and then look at it again, and then if there's
Exactly, yeah.
challenges, then go, yeah. Okay. Good?
Yep, we're just running behind you,
Okay.
so.
I'll do this part quick. This is the capital, piece. No. Just to give you an update on our capital plan, most of you have seen the presentation that, Marty did in terms of the whole process. A couple weeks ago, we had a small group come together to give us some feedback on how we can go to the community to talk about this, bonding need that we have, right? And we have a scheduled, community input, Thursday? This Thursday. One of the, and
Not
we.
tomorrow.
Tomorrow's Wednesday, the day after that, right, Thursday, right?
No, the next.
The next Tuesday. Okay, the next Thursday, right, it's coming up soon.
17th?
Coming soon, how about that? So I wanted to share with you a little bit, some of the feedback we got from the small group, was around, because we talked about the deferred maintenance, and I think everybody was, there was consensus around that's a high need, right, in terms of deferred maintenance for our buildings need that. And then there were, the other option we looked at was an enhancement onto the high school, and the third one was the, building a new high school. And we talked about, is this viable? Should we even be talking about this with the community? And there are lots of communication I've received since, emails from people around what they feel about there. I think we have all those camps in the community. People who would say, let's build a new school. People say, let's do the enhancement. People would say, just do the low maintenance and that kind of. We've kind of talked about it, and we say, we still, I think we owe it to the community at the consultation to bring that information and just say, hey, look, what do you think? Where should we go? The challenge also is around how we parcel out the dollars. But since we met last 2 weeks ago, we're starting to find out other strategies, how we can do it. One of the strategies, we were just talking, Nate and I were just talking recently, we've got the number down to about 45 million. But realistically, we don't need 45 million in the first year. We can't spend that much money. So it might be a way to draw that out to make it a little bit more palatable for people to say, okay, we can do that, and we can fix our schools and look at something down the road, right? So I invite you all to come out to the consultation Thursday or next Thursday, whatever it is. But I did want to show you this clip, and I'll move on from there, Mark. This Marty went out and just ran out. He went out and did. He first started out trying to do videos of every school to show the deferred maintenance, and found that was a huge task. And the first video was like 38 minutes. And then so he just took a couple clips and created this to kind of give a general perception of some of the challenges that we need. And we say deferred maintenance. That means this has been deferred for years, right? This is stuff that we've always put off. We cannot. One of the messages I'm gonna bring to the community is that this is not something we really have a choice, because we've been putting it off for years, and the cost increases every year. You got a crack in your wall, 2 years from now it's a big hole, then the ceiling comes down, then you're paying a lot more. So we got to seriously look at this in terms of fixing our schools.
Yeah, Marty doesn't say much of interest. But oh, I just turned it off again, I think. All right, let's try it again.
You can fast forward the first part.
No. I turned it off completely. All right, well, we might have some audio issues.
So in the interest of time, Mark, I'm gonna go to the next item while,
It's on mute.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Or is the arrow just on it?
Oh, it's on mute. So just click on that.
Try it now.
Hey there, folks. My name is Marty Fall. I'm the director of district. I'm going to take you on a tour of our Burlington School District properties to talk about some of our building capital needs. Handicap ramp was added to the front entrance of the building at a later date to provide accessibility for handicapped people. You'll see that once you enter the entrance, the main lobby of the building, to our administration, come on in with me. From the handicap ramp, you will now have access to administration and other parts of the A building. However, you do not have access to our auditorium front entrance. Because there is another set of stairs that drop down to the auditorium. So in order to actually gain access to the auditorium, you gotta go back outside down the sidewalk. Many of our playgrounds are not handicap accessible, and the stairwells are in poor condition. Here is a phone and intercom panel. This old school technology is not 911 compliant, so if you had to make a phone call to emergency dispatch for a 911 call, dispatch does not have the ability to know exactly what location of the building that you have called from. With new voice over IP phone systems, if you make a phone call from any room within any building in the district, dispatch knows exactly where to send an emergency responder to. This is the entrance to the Edmonds cafeteria. You can notice the condition of the windows. Many windows were replaced around the building, but there's many that also are still in much need of replacing. Here we are in the Edmonds basement, often referred to as the dungeon. This is actually the overflow space used for gym classes when the upstairs gymnasium slash cafeteria is occupied for meal service. They have to have gym classes down in this space. Here are some photos of our building mechanical system. As you will see, these very large pieces of equipment are old and outdated. Many are in much need of repairing, and some are even failing. This is an operational fire alarm system, also very old and in much need of updating. Here's an example of a fire escape that is rusted in need of replacing, as well as some door casing and window casings that are beyond repair. As you can see, our building's infrastructure is failing, and it's time for us to start addressing our building deferred maintenance and our capital needs.
Okay, so there you have samples. So all of our schools have deferred maintenance. And on the list, all of our schools have a dollar amount in terms of what supports. The video is a little bit choppy, but hopefully you get the idea in terms of the needs. So that's before we even talk about enhancements. So that's really the pitch that we have to let community members know that we really need to get our schools up to a certain standard and that we've neglected for a number of years. Okay. So I'm gonna move, unless there are some questions, I'm gonna move to the last. I've got some young women here who've been waiting very patiently. I'm gonna do a little brief introduction, and I'm gonna get them to stand up and share. So for our good news, I thought, let's just change of pace. Let's actually have some students here, some youth, to liven up this place a little bit. Right? So they call themselves Muslim Girls Making the Change.
Poets.
And they're a poetry group. I first had the opportunity to hear them perform at one of our parent university graduations. and they blew me away. You talk about literacy and development of vocabulary, it's right here. Some strong ones. So I thought we need to bring them right here to the board. Maybe you guys might want to share this later afterwards. They've had an opportunity to leave Burlington and go to other states and perform and represent our communities. So I'll hand it over to you. Probably the best spot is to come here.
Yeah.
Is that a good spot?
Like right over here?
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Well, yeah, we're Muslim girls making change, and this is 3/5 of the group here.
Yeah. Bulky, who also goes to VHS, which along with Hawa is actually with a program something with VHS.
Yeah, she's out of state.
And then
She's at a leadership program that the school let her welcome.
Make it, but.
September 11th, 2001.
Wake up, America! The enemy is here.
The terrorists.
Jihadists.
Those Arabs.
The womanizer.
The monsters.
Those Bin Ladens.
The ones to watch out for.
To surveil.
To remove.
To attack.
But actually, we're the advocates.
The award winners.
The bilinguals.
Hello.
Hola.
Bonjour. Guten Tag.
Assalamu alaikum. We're the 4.0 students.
The honor roll students.
The star athletes.
But we're also the misunderstood. The ones to watch out for. To surveil. To remove. To attack. It was my first day of 10th grade. My first day with the hijab in public. This hijab that power turned me from Kiran Mukhar, typical teen, to Kiran Mukhar, ambassador for all 1.6 billion Muslims.
March 21st, 2003. Fireworks were thrown into a Palestinian's family van.
Flames burned brighter than the rocket's red glare.
America. What are you celebrating?
April 6, 2004. A woman's hijab ripped off and she's verbally assaulted.
But she's dangerous.
Right?
She deserves this.
Right? Wait. But it's her body.
Right.
Women should be able to do what they want.
Right. So if you can show, why can't we conceal? August 6, 2007.
A chemical bomb is thrown at a mosque in Glendale, Arizona.
The bomb almost hit 2 Muslim Americans.
Imagine what could have happened.
2 mothers could have lost their sons.
2 men could have lost their lives. But wait,
America,
you don't care about our protection because you're trying to protect yourselves from us.
From me. I was on my way home from school when you decided to cross to the other side of the street. Was the surface I walked on too hot for you to come near? Did you know that your looks flamed the fire of insecurities within me?
August 24, 2010.
A taxi driver picks up Michael Enright, his first passenger of the day.
He thinks it'll be an average ride until he uttered the word
Muslim. Michael Enright slashes the taxi driver's face. Not once, not twice. What a price to pay for the freedom of your rights.
What happened to our freedom of religion?
The one promised to you, and you, and you,
and me? What about me? It's the first day of school. I'm the only Muslim girl wearing the hijab. I can feel everyone's eyes razor sharp, their lips forming questions. Who knew curiosity could cut so deep? I just wanted to curl up in a corner.
February 10, 2010.
Imagine you're a Muslim, going to your house of prayer and seeing the words, Muslim, go home, dripping in red paint on the white walls.
Go home, they said. Go home where?
The hospital I was born?
The city where I was raised?
We're not just Muslims.
We're American Muslims.
Equal in every way.
I heard the words roll off his tongue. You Muslims are the reason why the airport lines are so long, you bombers. He was drunk, but a drunk mind speaks a sober heart.
These are the things we see, hear, and experience daily.
And now you know of these.
Hidden crimes.
Unheard voices.
Terror on Muslims.
Restless souls.
Guns and bullet holes.
Wake up, America. The enemy has always been here.
Thank you. Making change, and we just had the opportunity to go to Washington D.C. A month ago, and It was such an amazing experience. We went to a national youth poetry slam competition.
International.
International,
We almost
sorry.
make the mistake, but
yeah,
yeah.
there were people from like all over Canada, Toronto, London, what is it?
Tobago.
Tunisia.
I don't know. It was all over.
It was everywhere, and it was just amazing just to have like that atmosphere and that safe space for everybody to come together and share their stories. And we learned so much there.
I'm really hoping we can like, bring that back here. We're trying to figure out. I mean, we just got back a month ago. I mean, we lost our sponsors, so we're trying to figure out how we can send a team again next year. Maybe not necessarily us, but others, and just keep slam poetry alive and figure out what MGMC will be in the future. So we'll keep you guys posted. You can check out our Facebook page, Muslim Girls Making Change, or Instagram or Facebook.
And a website will be up soon also. So
yeah.
All right. I want to thank the ladies for coming out tonight and sharing their talents with us. And we will be sending you a certificate recognizing your contributions and your representation of us outside of Burlington. And we also need to make some connections and see how we can support your initiative and get more others involved. So we'll be in touch with that. Okay? Thank you. That's it for me.
All set?
Yeah, I'm done.
This closes the superintendent report. We're going to move on to approval of the consent agenda items. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Commissioner Harrington, can I have a second? Commissioner Seguino, discussion. It's okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. We don't have a quorum. There you go.
Sure.
I needed a sixth. Okay. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the committee reports. We could do our best to try to keep these brief just because we're just falling behind a little bit here. Infrastructure and technology? No, David's not here. Actually, there was no meeting this month.
There was no meeting, no.
I'm sorry. Curriculum committee? No meeting this month. Thank you. Diversity and equity?
We had a meeting this month. One of the items was how to improve student voice. And so Lauren Bezabetia has agreed to spend the next month trying to identify ways to get increased student participation on diversity and equity, and they will be in touch with the student board reps to kind of coordinate that. That is, once we have a proposal, we'll be talking to the student reps about it. We also got an update on the equity and inclusion report, and for those of you who aren't familiar with this, it's really fits in very well with policy governance. The district does an annual report every year on the achievement gap, five groups: gender, language background, ability, socioeconomic status, and race. And this, I believe, will be the fourth report, which the superintendent has kindly agreed to provide in September instead of at the end of the year. So what that means is that we will have data for 2015, 2016 in September, rather than the year lag that we've had. And it will also be, because we have that many years of data, we now are able to observe trends. Are the gaps closing? How are we doing? And so on and so forth. So those were the items that we discussed. And we had a brief update on the restorative practices work that the district is doing, and we'll have a full report on that in September. That's it.
Thank you. Policy and governance.
Thanks. There are two things on the agenda, and one of them is something that I had asked to have pulled off the agenda. So I'm going to move to, I'm not sure, maybe
It's
Joe
okay.
can help me table or postpone.
Either one.
Is fine. So the tabling doesn't require like a formal process to put it.
No, all it requires is an offer and a second.
Okay.
And then no discussion.
I'm going to move to table the suspected child abuse and neglect policy and procedures until the committee can respond to some new questions from a board member.
Second motion.
I just have a clarifying question. Does your motion cover 11A and B or just B?
No, I said policy and procedures.
Okay.
Table both. Yeah, I mean, they kind of go part and parcel together. We can't really have one and not the other, so.
Did we still need a second? Did you give it first?
Seguino seconded.
Okay.
Well, they're my questions, so I think it's an excellent motion, so.
Any question? Seeing none, it passes. Small one.
All right, so the committee has been working on a public participation policy because we had two. So this is another example of where we have so many policies, we kind of get a little tripped up. We had two, and we looked at both of them and consolidated them. One of them deals with just the regular public forum that's a standard agenda item on every meeting agenda. The other one is when we hold a public hearing and there's a specific purpose for the public hearing, then there's a different kind of protocol for public participation. So the goal was to kind of allocate the appropriate kind of time for public speaking so that we can capture all the community voices we need to capture and still get our business done. So the reworking of the policy, which I'm just trying to open here. Sorry. My computer's not cooperating.
Do you want to look at mine, Liz?
No, I got it finally. So we created a section A and a section B, and we set aside a period of 20 minutes to have a public forum and 2 minutes per person. The board can extend the period with a 2/3 vote. And then we identified there's always limits to what the public can speak to, and that would include making any kind of comments or complaints or general information about any specific person that works for the district. And similarly with complaints about specific people or incidences, those are not appropriate for public forum. There's a separate process to deal with those issues. So the policy takes that section and puts it in A, and then we created public hearing and moved that language to B and put it all under one policy. Are there any questions? If not, I'd like to move the first reading of this policy.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none.
I'm trying to figure out, I'm on board docs, and it's on there somewhere?
Yeah, it's 11C.
Yeah, it's just not open for me. Yeah, is there any way to, oh, wait. I think oh, stupid phone.
Do you want to look at it on my computer?
Yeah, mine opened right up.
I've got it, it's just my phone, I trust you.
Yeah.
I know.
So, and just for some clarity, I mean, the policy and governance, they were nice enough to talk to me about this and see what it was, and it was,
Oh, yeah.
I'm fully behind this.
Discussed it over 2 or 3 consecutive meetings.
I'm not worried about
It was very well done, to tell you the truth, so it's exactly the stuff we should be doing with some of these things, so. Any further discussion? Any against? So moved. Move, Finance Committee. I'm sorry, I was was that mentioned twice? Finance Committee and
No Finance Committee.
no Finance Committee, and Commissioner Chin, I believe, well, he's out of the polls now, but I know he was, I
Oh, yes.
think he was also going to a funeral for a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next up, for those in the room, we're gonna, just to explain, we're gonna be going to executive session. We have, I'm gonna read these as to what they are. We can't discuss them right now because we have to go into, if any of them has a result of us needing to vote as a board, we have to come back out of executive session to do that. However, that could be an hour and a half from now. It all depends on how energetic we feel. So just for, I mean, you're certainly more than welcome to wait around if you like to, but it could take quite some time, okay? And we're only gonna vote if we come out of it and it's decided that we do need to vote on a motion, okay? So, we will have two motions. The first motion is to consider executive session to discuss contract negotiations where premature disclosure could place the district at a substantial disadvantage. Can I have a motion to accept?
I move to accept the
Commissioner
motion.
Seguin, Sereno, Commissioner Kleeman. Any discussion? So moved. Motion to consider executive discussion to discuss a civil claim where premature disclosure could place the district at a substantial disadvantage. Can I have a motion? Commissioner Kleeman. Commissioner Barlow, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, so moved. We're gonna move into executive session. We're gonna move into the other room in there so you guys can take your time to discuss some things. We're gonna pull executive session there. School board members, if you don't mind.